Welcome back, guys, to the final episode of our podcast, Brand Wars. To end things with a bang, we wanted to grace our audience with a very special guest from the industrial world. But before that, let's have a recap. After discussing what exactly are brand wars, their evolution over time, the regulations binding them, and their pros and cons in the first episode, we interacted with Mr. Venugopal Pingali to understand the psychological aspects involved behind them. Now, it's time to introduce our guest of honor. She is the brand manager at Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation of Asia's largest dairy beverage brand Amul Cool and listed in Forbes India 30 Under 30 2021. An immensely knowledgeable industrialist, please welcome Ms. Shefali Vijaywargiya. Hi Shefali. We feel honored to be hosting you today for our podcast and are really eager to get your insights as a brand manager on such a type of marketing. We heartily welcome you.
Thank you, Mahima, for having me. Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much, Shefali. So, starting with the interaction now. So, what in your opinion are the factors that need to be taken care while competing in a brand war?
Okay, so firstly, we need to see why brands get into brand wars. See, brands compete for a larger share of voice, which is the reason they get into any such war. Now, there are two reasons, in my opinion, or the two factors that brands need to take care of. One, any communication, whether comparative or not, should support brand purpose and everything that the brand stands for.
Very true.
Yeah, so that would be one. Second, consumer centricity should be at the core, and any brand war should educate or empower consumers to make better choices.
Right.
So it should be in the interest of consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, noted, Shefali. Do you think that there has been a change of these brand war tactics over time? Do you think so?
See, while the advertising avenues have grown, the essence of comparative advertising hasn't changed over time as such.
Okay.
Yeah, brands still use these ads to establish superiority over other competitors.
Right.
However, in the world of social media, brands get real-time feedback, and any campaign can backfire if it is not in the interest of consumers. So that's why I told you, first thing is interest of consumers. So with limited marketing budgets and many other ways to acquire or retain consumers, this is not the only way. So brands avoid getting into brand wars unless they have a very strong brand. And typically, in the case of for-profit companies, marketers strategize to maximize ROI. So a comparative ad gets into media only if it can deliver business objectives. And this is the reason why we don't see many brand wars these days.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So, from both consumers and companies' point of view, how can we ensure that content used during these comparative advertisements is effective? And what do you think differentiates being into controversy and being good marketing? Because as I have identified, there's a very thin line that differentiates them. So, what is your opinion on that?
True, and that's a very good question actually. See, we live in an age when communication is not a one-way street anymore.
Okay.
Consumers engage with brands, share their feedback or comments on social media all the time.
Yeah.
So if an advertisement clearly communicates the functional or emotional benefits which further enforce brand proposition, then the ad is likely to get attention and support from consumers.
Right.
And social media leads to virality in no time. We all know this.
Mm-hmm.
So social media has the power to make any marketing effort or any ad the best of its kind. But there is always the flip side of everything we do. So social media is also a democratic platform. The
Right.
controversy or negative comments are unavoidable. But in such a case, it's brand evangelists. They speak up for the brand they love and remain loyal to.
Right.
And that's the reason why brand building is so important and requires a lot of marketing efforts. But if done right, it pays off in a big way. And we can be sure that it's always going to be good marketing.
Very true, very true. Thank you so much, Shefali. Now, moving on to the last part of the interaction, but a very essential one. We all know that you work at Amul, that is Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation. So, a very well-known face-off between Amul and Quality Walls. Just for our listeners, giving out the context. So, in March 2017, Amul released a new TVC saying pure moments deserve pure milk ice cream, not vegetable oil. That showed a young girl putting up a brave front at the dentist's and being rewarded by her father for her bravery with an Amul ice cream. The ad then displayed two ice cream cups side by side. While the Amul branded cup was shown being filled with milk, the other cup with frozen dessert contains vegetable oil written on it. This ad led to a frenzy with Hindustan Unilever Limited lodging a case against the same, claiming Amul, demeaning the image of Quality Walls, their flagship frozen dessert brand. So, Shefali, moving on to the question, what is your view on the situation, and in your opinion, should Amul, being such a beloved brand pan-India, get into brand wars like these, and why?
Yeah, you reminded me of this case. Absolutely. Why shouldn't Amul get into such wars? Which brand to buy is a consumer choice. But when they make that choice, they should be fully aware of what they're paying for.
Very true.
Right? So, real ice cream is made from pure milk and cream.
Very true.
If there is anything else, then it's not an ice cream. Right? So now, since you're talking about this ice cream versus frozen dessert case,
Yes.
now here the purpose was very clear. Amul wanted to educate consumers that when they buy ice cream, they may be paying for milk fat, but getting cheap vegetable fat in the name of ice cream.
Right.
So consumers should check pack label to ascertain if they are getting the right thing. That was a very clear communication across media vehicles.
Right.
But this campaign triggered a wave of media reports and social media conversations. But finally, it enabled consumers to make better choice and avoid being cheated.
Very true.
And as a consumer-centric brand, Amul did the right thing by calling a spade a spade.
Right.
And as you said, the battle did go to the court, and it was in favor of Amul. But finally, the objective was that we educate consumers.
Very true. Yeah.
And tell them that they are supposed to check the label, and if then they have to make a choice. If they want to have frozen dessert, then they can go ahead with it. Yeah.
Very true. Well said, Shefali. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you, Mahima.
Nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with this, we come to an end to this informative podcast series. A heartfelt gratitude to each and every listener who took our time to shower so much love to our podcast. Signing off with everything fair in love, Mahima, Vinay, Ishit and Julian. Thank you guys. Hasta la vista.